tolerance. Our philosophy preaches tolerance. Our constitution practices tolerance. Let us not dilute it. In the wake of aggressive nationalism of the present scenario, this may sound a little strange to many ears, but this is the crux of tolerance in our constitution. In our constitution, you must have known, there is a preamble, which is the substance of the constitutional philosophy. And in the preamble, the greatest emphasis has been given on individual dignity. And individual dignity has been equated with the unity and integrity of the nation. The framers of our constitution thought, and rightly so, that you cannot have a unified, strong nation if you denude the citizens of that dignity. Now, you cannot allow the citizens to maintain their dignity if you rob them of their basic freedoms. If today I become answerable for eating a particular food to some people, or if my house is raided for storing beef, if I am traveling in a train, my things are searched to find out whether I am carrying beef in the train or not. Where is my dignity? Where is my moral autonomy? Where is my freedom? This is what is happening today, and we condemn this as acts of intolerance. Now, if I become an anti-national by raising a slogan in a campus, or if I become anti-national by supporting somebody's cause which may be unpopular, then that is a clear sign of intolerance. And that intolerance is today is virtually prevailing in the country. Now, the present hysteria which is raised about some students and about some university campus is something which is prompted by clear lack of thinking. And there is nothing known as anti-national. Nobody knows what is meant by anti-national. The word is selectively applied on the basis of subjective opinion of those who are in power. Now, unfortunately today, I am sorry to say, Mr. Seth has already said there are some stupid ministers in the Council of Ministers. I am not saying anybody is stupid, but I am saying that those who have knowledge about India's rich cultural heritage have no power. And those who have that power have no knowledge of the cultural heritage of India. Now look at the question of freedom of speech, which is very important. Supreme Court has defined it very categorically in that Sneha Sehgal's case, where the Supreme Court said that your freedom of speech consists of three elements. First is discussion. It may be a very unpopular thought, but right to discussion is included within your fundamental rights. Discussion, advocacy, you can advocate this cause to another person. But when it reaches the stage of incitement, then you are transgressing beyond your rights. Till it reaches the stage of incitement or some violence, right of discussion, right of advocacy are both within the parameters of constitutional fundamental rights and has to be tolerated. Now, we do not see, nobody has said that there was any violence in the campus of JNU when the discussions were going on. But even then, there are calamity charges under sedition. The same thing is true of sedition. This has been clearly explained by Supreme Court in Kedarnath's case, that unless your criticism of the government's work is so violent that it leads to a disruption of public order, sedition charges cannot be slapped. Today I find this Kanhaiya has been charged with sedition charges. I think he is in good company with both Tilak and Gandhi. They were tried for seditious trial. You must have seen that. Now, if I may say in this connection, if I quote Tagore for a minute, what he said about nationalism, I'm just quoting it. He said this when we were not free, when we didn't have our independence. It is my conviction that my countrymen will gain their India by fighting against the education which teaches them that a country is greater than the ideals of humanity. At times, nationalism is a great menace. Now, if Tagore had been alive today, those who are in power might have booked him under charges of sedition. Now, the question here is this. You must, what Voltaire said, I take that to be the real crux of tolerance. Voltaire said that I may not agree with what you say, but you'll fight to death to support what your right to say that. Now, where is that? This gentleman, this Kanhaiya, when he's produced in court, he's manhandled in the presence of the judge. And some political party chiefs are saying he has done a thing which is no pious thing. The gentleman who has done it should be felicitated. Now, this is the kind of intolerance which is now sweeping across the various educational institutions. Now, do you expect the university students to be patriotic morons? Do they have no right to challenge things? What about Afzal Guru's execution? I am saying as a judge, the way the execution took place, his clemency petition was rejected on 3rd February and the execution took place on 9th February. This is wrong. Without giving him the rights under Article 21, he has the right to challenge it. His family members have a right to be informed about it. The human rights is there, is still there as long as the noose is not tightened around his neck. What about how his body was cremated? What about his last rites? Now, if anybody questions that, does it become anti-national? If one person raises a slogan, he becomes anti-national and is subject to all kinds of torture. And the way the bail order has been given to this Kanhaiya by the learned judge speaks very badly of our judiciary. I am very sorry. Judiciary has also come under pressure. What is happening in this country? I condemn intolerance in any form. I think without tolerance, we cannot have cultural pluralism, nor can we have multicultural existence in India. India is not meant for these intolerant people. Thank you.
The speaking secretary for the motion is Kajol.
Good evening, everybody. Hello. First of all, let me say thank you for inviting me to speak at the Telegraph debate. I'm very happy to be here. A little surprised because I am not as prolific as everybody sitting on the bench over here, for and against. I was a little hesitant to accept this invitation, but the Telegraph was insistent, so if I make any mistakes and if I speak any nonsense, it's their fault, not mine. Before leaving for Calcutta, actually, I asked all my dad's Bengali friends as to what I should and should not do at the Calcutta Club. And I was told that, you're an actress, so you should just, if you have specs, you should wear your specs, and you should not smile too much when you're talking. So that's not going to happen, sorry. I can't do that, and for the sake of vanity, since I'm an actress, I'm just going to do away with the specs for this evening. I hope I can impress you despite that. I have written down all my notes. I know that there are lots of passionate speakers over here, and they're going to be speaking off the top of their heads, but since I don't have that much experience, and the last debate that I attended was in school, I'm going to be safe on the safe side and write down what I have to say. There are many, many types of intolerance. Political intolerance is probably only one of them, and I'll leave the politics to all these people much more well-versed in it than me. I'll speak about the intolerance elsewhere, in case being myself. I've always been an intolerant girl. 20 years ago, I was pictured as a demure and docile Indian girl being brought up in London by a caring and strict father who allowed me to go on my first European trip with friends after much coaxing and cajoling. And there I meet this boy who quite famously held my outstretched hand and pulled me onto the train compartment even as it was pulling away from the platform. But once on the train, he and I were so totally on the wrong track. After all, how could any good Bharatiya Nari ever tolerate someone as frisky and flirtatious as a boy called Raj? I mean, come on, with overgrown hair, undergrown manners, from talking non-stop to dropping me on the dance floor to squirting water on my face with a rose. I mean, forget it. He made me so mad, forget intolerant. Mr. Speaker, sir, the boy I was seriously intolerant of in 1995 was Shah Rukh Khan. And it was only later that I, as Simran, managed not just tolerate him, but also fall madly in love with him because, after all, the Dilwala had to take the Dulhania away. 10 years later, another Khan was to fare far worse than Shah Rukh, of course, in the face of my intolerance. I was then a blind Kashmiri girl who travels with her parents for the first time to Delhi. I meet a Casanova tour guide who I lose my heart to. I get my vision back, but before our marriage, but then everything goes terribly wrong as he's killed in a horrible bomb blast. Years later, I'm living in a remote house in Kashmir, and this man turns up at our door, wounded and on the run. Without knowing who he is, I save his life, and after finding out who he is, I get married to him. Wow. When I finally realize he's a terrorist who ends up killing my father for his mission, I'm so intolerant of him that I don't think twice before putting 2 bullets through him. And that was Amir Khan, and he was so fana. In 1998, I was flying to Paris, despite a serious fear of flying, to get back to the boy I loved. On the flight, I meet this man called Shekhar, a stranger, who was headed home with a stolen necklace. He slips the stolen necklace into my bag, stalks me for days, and manages to irritate me in just so many ways. I was severely intolerant of him until I realized he had a heart of gold under all those brooding silences. And that one line of his, "Aisa hi hu main," just stole my heart. After all, pyar to hona hi tha. A year later, real turned to real, and I was married to this man that you all know as Ajay Devgan. Those who know me and my family have often said that this intolerance runs in our blood. My mother, a Maharashtrian actress, acted in many Bengali films. She was fortunate to earn the affection of the people in Bengal, but she remained completely intolerant. Consider her in the film Dayanaya. She was acting opposite the iconic Bengali hero Uttam Kumar. My mother was an insolent, intolerant, but wealthy girl. And the staff in the house said that she had a military temperament. She has that in real life as well. It wasn't too much of an act. She fell in love with the voice of Uttam Kumar, who was a businessman's son who preferred to sing rather than look after the family business. His father threw him out of the house, and Uttam Kumar took a job at my mother's house. Intolerant girls are not often very clever, exception in this case. And she hardly realized that the person she was in love with was actually her chauffeur. Uttam Kumar tolerated her intolerance, and as it happens in movies, the end was a happy one. Sometimes there are rewards in intolerance. Over a century ago, on the Bengali stage, a great actor was playing the role of an intolerant zamindar. A member of the audience was so agitated that he picked up his shoe and threw it at him. The actor picked up the slipper and touched his forehead to it and said, "Today, my life is truly blessed." The actor was Girish Chandra Ghosh, and the gentleman in the audience was Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, one of the greatest Indians ever. Actually, we all play to a script. You may have seen Spielberg's movie, Who Killed Roger Rabbit? The vamp in the film, Jessica Rabbit, is a cartoon character. And she tells Spielberg, "I'm not bad. I'm just drawn that way." So, Speaker Sir, for these reasons, I would like to endorse the motion. There are many types of intolerance, not merely political ones. And there has always been intolerance in India. There are fault lines, we have inequality and poverty, we have social divisions, we have differences of caste, gender, language, religion. And I am not a politician, so I think that to make all the social issues political is absolutely wrong. I also think that we all need to work together to make a stronger and a richer India. Only then will intolerance cease to exist. The debate on tolerance does not recognize this. It has thus become the new intolerance. Once again, Mr. Speaker, sir, I endorse the motion. Thank you.
Can I ask Randeep Surjewala to oppose the motion?
Thank you, Telegraph, the Calcutta Club, Avik Da, Chairman Sir, my fellow panelists. I come from a small town, the epicenter of Kurukshetra. It's called the Kethal Kapisthal. And I was hearing my fellow panelists. I was remembering the Bengal connection. I'm proud of the fact that, that the area that I've represented for a long, long time houses the mutt of Maharaj Totapuri, who, as we may know, was the guru of Swami Ramakrishan Paramhans. So as I stand here to oppose the motion, without the finesse of the words that Suhel used, let me recall an incident from his life, Swami Ramakrishan Paramhans. Once when Swamiji was taking a walk on the banks of the river along with his disciples, he saw a scorpion floating in the river. By instinct, he entered the water to pick up the scorpion and to save it. The scorpion stung him. Swamiji moved his hand and it fell back into the water. He tried once again, and once again the scorpion stung him and it again fell down. So he took a twig and put the scorpion on the side. So one of his disciples asked him, "Well, the scorpion stung you twice. Why did you still take it out? Why did you save his life?" So I want to recollect what he said. He said, "That is the nature of the scorpion. It will sting. It is my nature to help it. And should I give up my nature just because the scorpion stings? I will not." So ladies and gentlemen, shall we give up compassion because another one is cruel? Shall we give up love and affection because another one spurns us? Shall we give up humility because another one is arrogant?